Hi, I'm Dahlia Remler, and welcome to Research Methods. Um, in this first chapter, I'm going to give you an overview of the book by me and Greg Van Ryzen and try and tell you why this is an incredibly practical course for you. So, we live in this information data world right now, and this is about getting good evidence. How do you really figure out how the world is, what the criminal justice system is like, who gets arrested, what happens to them, and even more, as we'll talk about soon, what works? How do you make things better? And good evidence comes from well-made research, good methodology, which is from lots of sources. And by the term research methods, we mean the techniques and procedures that produce research evidence. And there's lots of different techniques. So if I was in the real live world, I'd ask how many of you have heard the term data analytics? How many of you use data analytics? It's a big buzzword now because the methods you're going to learn in this class are the same kinds of methods that produce these data analytics, the dashboard. Those just come in real time. So why do these methods matter? Well, strategically, if you're a practitioner or a policymaker, you can use your methods to make a case, convince people, and to counter arguments. And in this information age, this data-soaked world, in more and more jobs, that's an important skill. So now, I want you to all think of something. Think of an example, an important social issue or problem. Can you think of one and think about how research evidence is important to addressing? Or think about a controversial issue in policy debate. How is research used to support one side or other? Or think of a job in your top field. How is knowledge of research methods useful in this job? So I'd ask you to pause the video now, answer at least one, ideally two of these questions, write it down, speak it aloud. Okay, welcome back. It's also a good idea as you go through the course to return to these, to think about how research methods can be useful to you. So there's all different types of research policy and practice. There's the data analytics I've mentioned, where there's constantly new data coming in and analysis is done again and again in real time, both for short periods and cumulative. Performance measurement is an older term, but the idea that, again, let's collect data, see how we're doing, and use that performance hopefully to manage. There's evaluation research, demonstrating the effectiveness of what you do to sponsors and funding entities. There's evidence-based policy and programs, the idea of, hey, when we do things, let's figure out what works. Those last two will be very much important in the causation. So again, pause the video and think about examples that you've seen of these in your work. So evidence can mislead. In the textbook, we have examples of misleading measurements. That's when you wanted to measure one thing, you had an idea, like how effective is our college in teaching students. And the idea was to measure that, but yeah, they measured something else. Or misleading samples. Maybe you want to know about how voters are going to vote, and you tried to survey them, but you missed some voters, or you got too many people, including some non-voters. Misleading samples. Misleading correlations. Oh my God, we're going to have so many of those in this semester. But the idea there is, oh goodness, look, the students who go to, who attend college full-time are more likely to graduate. Oh, it's because they're going full-time that they're more likely to graduate. Let's push all the part-time students to become full-time, and then they'll be more likely to graduate. Well, that could be, or it could just be that the students who go to school full-time have better financial support, and so they're able to put more time into school, and that's why they're graduating. So again, can you think of some examples of each of these? On the misleading measurements, maybe think of some job performance where they supposedly measured how well you were doing in your job, but they were looking at the wrong things. So what is research? Well, in this class, we're going to learn about this thing called primary research. And the easiest way to do that at first is to contrast it with secondary research. When I say I'm going to the library to do some research, or nowadays we'd say I'm going online, maybe through the library portal to do some research. That's secondary research. Other people did it and you're finding out what they learned. In this class, we're going to learn about primary research. That means someone went out, they collected data that no one else had before. Or they used existing data, but they did some completely new analysis of the data, right? So primary data collection might be you go out and do some whole new survey, like election polling. That's original data collection. Original analysis is you take some data that, say, already existed in your workplace. Maybe you have a database about clients or about your performance, and you're going to do some statistical analysis that no one else has done. So there's lots and lots of kind of research, and it's not just the stuff in academic journals. It's what you do in your organization. If someone says to you, hey, you know that in quality improvement initiative, did it actually improve quality? Or are our clients, are they satisfied? So research comes in many forms. Large-scale surveys, lab experiments, all kinds of things. There are a lot of things about research and its limitations we're going to learn about. We'll spend a whole semester on this, but I'll just say a few things for now. In this class, we're doing social and policy applied research. That kind of research is contingent. It's not like physics. You know, if you want to know how effective online learning is, it may be different if you're talking about graduate students who are going part-time and learning in their part-time when they're not taking care of their family and working versus at some, rural, small liberal arts college. It's contingent. The effects may be contingent. But at the same time, you want your research to generalize. If what you discover is only true about one particular time, in one particular place, in one particular setting, and you're not learning anything about anything else, it's not very usable. Generalizability involves taking results of research and applying them to other situations. It's also uncertain. I know you learned in stats about standard errors and confidence intervals. That's an important type of uncertainty from sampling error, but it is not the only kind. We'll learn about lots of uncertainty. Studies are rarely definitive, and they are never perfect. They all have strengths and weaknesses. Some of them have no strengths, but most research has strengths and weaknesses. I've been doing this a while. You give me a piece of social research, I can usually tear it to shreds. Don't know much about the topic, it'll take me more work to tear it to shreds. And if it's research that I've done, oh boy, I can really tear it to shreds. I know all the problems. And because research has these strengths and weaknesses, they all involve bits and pieces of a larger puzzle. Any one study isn't the final word, doesn't even tell you that much. You need lots of them to get a body of evidence. Another thing about research is it involves competition and criticism. Hopefully in graduate school in general, and I especially hope in this class, you'll become much more open to criticism. It's not personal, it's just part of the process. Everything we do, ourselves and the other people we do, we want to criticize it, test it, try and disprove it. That's how we get the best evidence. Research is also quantitative, qualitative, or a mix. Mixed methods combines them. A lot of this class is about quantitative methods, but we also have qualitative, and a lot of the ideas we learn, like about theories or about measuring things or about sampling or case selection, they like to call them qualitative, it encompasses both of them. Research can be applied or basic. Basic is pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. This is an applied class. We're mostly about applied research. So now the next idea about descriptive and causal research is like the organizing concepts of the course. Descriptive research just is what is out there. What, describe the world as it is. Causal research is about causes, and especially in this class, what-if questions. Like, if we change this one thing, how will it affect something else? And that's obviously really important to practitioners because you guys are trying to make the world a better place. You're trying to, reduce crime, improve graduation, make people healthier, make your organization more efficient, less costly. You're trying to do all of those things. So now, another time that you should pause. Think of a social or policy issue. Think about a relevant descriptive research question and a relevant causal research question. And try and do those. And then once you've got them, think about the descriptive. Is that kind of just saying how the world is? And is the causal one about how if you change one thing, something else is effective? Okay, so now's a good time to pause. Hope that was useful. And again, we'll be coming back to this descriptive and causal stuff throughout the course. So another thing I want to talk about is induction and deduction. Research can be inductive research or deductive research. They're both good, and to be honest, in my class you don't need to know the jargon, but you do need to know the ideas. So a key thing is, are you going from your theory about how the world works, hypotheses, hey, I think it might work this way, model, using those to determine how to gather data, how to systematically observation. So you're going basically from theory to data. That's deduction. Induction, sorry about that, is you're going from your data. So maybe you're just out there, all that data we all collect. Your organization keeps track of clients, employees, so on, and you're going to systematically observe that. Maybe do statistics, maybe plot it out, or it could be qualitative data. You did some interviews, you just observed people. You're going to use that to develop a theory. Both are great. They're both great, but the key point is you need new data if you're trying to test it. You can't get a bunch of data, slice and dice it. We'll be talking about data mining later. Come up with a theory and say, okay, now I'm going to test my theory and go back to the same data. You need new data. And again, we'll be coming back to that idea quite a bit. Okay, so now I want to talk about the fact that you can approach research from several different angles. Consuming research. That is the #1 goal in this class. It's required for practitioners, policymakers. In this world, you're all going to be bombarded with evidence, data, etc. you need to learn how to make that useful, how to look at a piece of research and analysis, figure out, is this relevant to me? Is what someone's claiming it says, is that wrong? Does it apply to my situation? Consuming, as I like to say, research and analysis. A student once told me, this course is about, does the study really say what it says it says? And it was just the most fantastic summary. People will throw formal studies or some analysis at you, and they'll often say, oh, see, this shows this. And you'll say, hey, does it really show this? Or maybe it shows it for that situation, but it's not going to apply to mine. It's not going to generalize. But in this class, you'll also learn about commissioning research, because you will often have to go to internal staff members or someone outside and get them to do a piece of research and analysis. And you need to know things to make sure that you ask them to do something doable, that what you ask them to do will be useful to you in the way you want. Finally, you will do some learning about conducting research, both formal and informal research, as part of your work or your studies. And so we will be doing some of that. So now, can you think of some examples of consuming research that you've done where you had to make use of a piece of research analysis? And maybe think about how learning research methods could help you turn policy or practice questions into doable research questions. Assess what can and can't be learned. Can you give an example of when you've had the need to commission or conduct research? So thank you very much. I hope that you will all find this useful.